News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you to retire that job, but keep the paycheck. And with me, of course, is Mr. Brice Payne. Good morning, Brice.
Good morning, Doug. You staying dry?
Unfortunately, no.
No, it's a little on the soggy side this week.
I'm about to get tired of it.
Yeah, I still don't feel like summer has really gotten here yet. You know, it's
well, the 21st. They said that was the first day of summer.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it.
No, did not.
All right. Well, Doug, we are going to be talking about understanding changing expenses in retirement here. We usually focus with our clients on three things: the expenses that they have, the income that they have in retirement, and the assets that they've already accumulated. So we're going to focus both segments today on expenses in retirement and how those expenses change. And at some point in the coming weeks, we're going to do one on the income side and how income changes in retirement. But before we get started today, of course, we want to do the Wealth Guardian Service salute to all of our men and women in uniform out there. Thank you to you and your families for the sacrifices that you make to keep America safe and free. We appreciate you, and we're saluting you like we do here every week. And Doug, we had a little bit of an interesting week here at the Wealth Guardians.
Yeah, we did. You know, from time to time, we love to do events for our clients. A couple weeks ago, we had our big summer picnic at Tanglewood, had over 200 and some odd clients and their families there. But this past week, we hosted KCO Day from 94.5 WPTI, and our clients who actually came as a result of listening to KC and WPTI, and we had kind of a heavy hors d'oeuvre dinner kind of a thing, and a town hall meeting with me and you and KC and Garrett, having KC he fielded some questions.
Yeah, he fielded some questions.
Some good stuff. And KC, I love KC. His intellect is amazing. I mean, he can really dig down deep, and he can see things that, sometimes I don't see, for sure. For example, somebody asked him who he thought might win the Republican nomination, and he said Tim Scott.
Yeah.
And, having been a South Carolina resident, I did vote for Tim. And, I've listened to Tim over the years, and the guy is a great orator. To me, he's Reagan-esque because he's positive, he's upbeat, he's talking about how great America is. And that's so refreshing from all this doom and gloom and just garbage we're hearing lately.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a refreshing message to hear anybody go back to the Reagan years and talk about that, metaphorically, that shining beacon on the hill type of talk, and how great we can be and the potential that we have if we all unite together and common interest, instead of how one side is the enemy of the other side and we all should be hating each other. That just kind of gets old and beats down, doesn't leave you with a good taste in your mouth after listening to the radio at some point. So definitely Casey was good to have in here, and the clients definitely love talking to him, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again at some point.
Well, you will.
All right, very good. All right, so Doug, let's go ahead and get started on our topic here, understanding changing expenses. And just to fill the people listening out there, what we do here at the Wealth Guardians, we are financial planners, and we help organize and synchronize all things that has to do with a household's money in retirement is where we really specialize, focus there. And we want to look at somebody's income. We want to look at the assets that they've had, the type of income that those assets can generate, and then the expenses. And we meet with our clients once a year to update all of these numbers and make sure that we're not overlooking something or that something has changed from the previous year. Because if we do need to update it, it's better that you update it sooner than later and realize where your cash flow is headed in retirement. And expenses change in retirement, and they don't stay the same. If you think, well, I'm going to spend $5,000 a month or whatever the amount is month after month in retirement, well, that might be true right now. But you can bet after you filed Social Security or after you started receiving Medicare or whatever, we talked about the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, and how your expenses change. You have to be keeping up to date with those changes. So we're going to talk a little bit here today in both segments about how these expenses can change. And the first one we want to dip into here, Doug, is housing. Mm-hmm. So most people, hopefully, are going into retirement having already taken care of their mortgage. But that doesn't mean that other things around housing doesn't change. perhaps at some point in your life, you're going to change what house you live in, and that might change the insurance that you're paying.
Sure.
On the
Some
house.
people want to downsize. On the other hand, we have clients who keep their house and maybe go buy a beach cottage or a mountain cabin
house,
or something like that. So that does change. And I've said this time and time again. The couple that goes into retirement debt-free has nearly 100% chance of having a very successful retirement. So you really have to be careful about your debt load as you go into retirement.
That's exactly right. So that's one of the things that can change in retirement. Maybe you go into retirement, you've only got a couple of years left on your mortgage, and you think, well, I'm spending X amount of dollars right now. Well, that budget is obviously going to change once the mortgage is taken care of. So you want to be able to plan for that. And that hopefully that would be one of the ones in a more positive way that your income can change. Not all of these are going to be positive. Some of these that we're going to be talking about here in the first and second segment, the expense goes up, not down. So that was the first one, housing. And the next one we want to talk about is no more work stuff. So you might save quite a bit by not working. You have no more commute. You have perhaps eliminated a wardrobe or a uniform budget. Perhaps you were eating out.
Yeah, for lunch.
For lunch, I do
expensive.
that. I do that frequently. Had to get off to work here and hit the grindstone and didn't have time to pack my lunch. So somebody else in the refrigerator here at work dipped into my lunch. So I've got to go out.
Who would do that here?
I have no idea, Doug. No idea who might have done that time and time again. Anyway, so no more work stuff. We talked about the eating out and you didn't have time to cook. These could all be money saving things that once you retire. Now you're just eating food out of the fridge, and we all know, right? Eating food out of the fridge is less expensive than going out to even the McDonald's or whatnot.
No doubt about it.
So that might be an expense that goes down as well.
Yeah.
Anything what do you find yourself spending money on at work that perhaps one day when you retire or when you're not going to work that your expenses will go down?
Well, before I moved here, it was certainly travel back and forth from Charlotte.
That was a huge expense for you.
Oh, my gosh. I'd put 24,000 miles a year on my car, and think of the gas that has to go into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's a lot of things there that will hopefully, again, change in the better for you once you retire. Now, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray and Brice Payne. And in these two segments today, we are talking about understanding changing expenses in retirement. Your expenses once you retire are going to change, and they might continue to change in retirement. So that's what we're talking about here, so that you can plan for what your budget might be after you retire. And Doug, the third one that we're going to talk about here is healthcare.
Yeah, and this is one where it's probably, as we age, going to go up in expense. Unfortunately.
It is. So this is one of the ones that's not going to go down. Yeah. This is one that's going to go up.
So depending upon what happens, everything you saved in housing and travel and all that other stuff may be eliminated with healthcare costs, especially if it's a long-term healthcare situation.
And I'll say this: a lot of people. This is one that a lot of people tend to overlook, and I think there's a reason for that. Is when you're going into retirement, your body's maybe 65 years old or so. For a majority of your life, your body's probably been in pretty good physical health, and so you think, well, I don't spend that much money on healthcare, so I'm not going to be too concerned about what my healthcare expenses in retirement are going to be. But like a car, our bodies aren't getting younger, and so just because we've been in good health for a majority of our life, unfortunately, that's not going to keep happening. Something's going to change there, and we do have to plan for those expenses going up, whether it's your out-of-pocket or your premiums or whatnot, just the insurance that you're buying. You're not going to be blessed to have the low copay insurance that you might have had from work. So there's a lot of different expenses that are going to go up there, unfortunately, with healthcare. Let's move on to the next one, Doug.
Okay.
Taxes.
Taxes, yeah. You might be in a situation where when you were working, you were a higher income tax bracket. Now that you've retired, you're not. That's very possible. On the other hand, taxes probably will be going up in the future. So that is something that we have to take a serious look at when we do our retirement planning.
Exactly right. So, taxes is another one that changes significantly. Let's go on to retirement savings. So one of the biggest budget items during your working years might have been paying yourself, but now, once you retire, in all likelihood, you're not funding your IRAs and your 401ks anymore, so there's extra dollars in your pocket each month.
There you go.
For
exactly.
That. Speaking of retirement savings and all things retirement. I just want to remind everybody out there that if what we're talking about here sounds like something you would like to have a further conversation, whether it's with Doug or myself or Garrett, it's easier to do than you think. All you have to do is pick up the phone and give us a call at 336-391-3409. We're in Clemens. We're located in the Broyhill Annex underneath the water tower. And there's no cost or obligation to sit down with us and go through our planning process and see what the strengths that we can find in your retirement portfolio and see if there's any cracks in the foundation that we might identify and see if that we can help you improve as well.
Exactly. Don't charge at all.
I'd also like to add in there that if you want to, you can text the word wealth to us at 336-391-3409. That's wealth, W-E-A-L-T-H, 336-391-3409. And you're going to receive our free report, Managing Inflation in Retirement. That's another one of these things that can adjust your expenses in retirement. I'd also like to keep you in mind that you can tune into the video broadcast of this episode on our YouTube channel at The Wealth Guardians to see our studio, to see our investment quote of the week. You can also catch our most recent episode of our Vault video series, where we break down individual topics on all things pertaining to retirement planning. That's The Wealth Guardians on our YouTube channel. Now, we do have to take a break here, and we're going to continue with this topic when we come back from the break. But Doug, I've got a trivia question for you. Are you ready?
Let's see.
All right, so this one is specifically for you. When Allied troops invaded the beaches of Normandy, France on June 6, 1944, it went by what code name?
Oh.
Was it Operation Neptune, Operation Luna, Operation Phalanx, or Operation Eclipse? When Allied troops invaded the beaches of Normandy, France on June 6, 1944, it went by what code name? All right. Well, stick around for the answer to that trivia question on the other side of this break. This is Brice Payne. With me is Doug Ray, and the show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. You're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne along with Doug Ray, and in the second segment this morning, we're going to continue our conversation about understanding changing expenses in retirement. Now, before we get to our trivia question, I've got two questions for you. Are you looking forward to your retirement? Okay. Do you want to make sure that you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? Well, I suspect you answered yes to both of those questions. Then I've got great news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians offer a no cost, no obligation second opinion / review of your retirement plan. This includes a deep analysis of your assets, your investment portfolio, your insurance policies, your income needs, your risk tolerance, your risk exposure, your tax mitigation strategies, your legacy goals, and the fees that you're currently paying. Our goal is not complicated. We want to help you lower your fees, align your risk, and improve your overall retirement picture so you can indeed retire the job and keep the paycheck. But the ball's in your court. You have to give us a call, and our phone number is this, 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Give us a call or visit us at thewealthguardians.com to set up your financial plan review with Doug, Garrett, and myself today. Remember, the markets aren't going to wait for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to this trivia question. Doug, you there?
I'm here.
All right. When Allied troops invaded the beaches of Normandy, France on June 6, 1944, it went by what code name? Was it Operation Neptune, Operation Luna, Operation Phalanx, or Operation Eclipse?
Well, I don't think it was Phalanx because that gun hadn't been invented yet.
Okay. A little deductive reasoning here. I like that.
All right, give me the first two again.
Operation Neptune, Operation Luna, or Operation Eclipse, since you've ruled out Phalanx.
I'm going to say Luna.
Operation Luna. Oh, so sorry, Doug. You were close, though. It was actually Operation Neptune.
Yeah, I was thinking that one too.
And it was likely named for the Roman god of the sea. Operation Neptune succeeded after elaborate deceptions led Adolf Hitler to believe that Allied forces planned to attack from the Straits of Dover. And that operation was called Operation Bodyguard. No guessing where the name for that came from. Did you know that decoy operation that we were having him think that involved inflatable planes in cardboard planes?
Yes, I knew that.
So that their satellites or their aircraft were looking down and it looked like real planes all gathering there. So it's interesting sometimes to think some of the tactics that go into war to deceive our enemy. Some fun stuff there. All right. Well, Doug, you didn't quite get it, but you were close. You were close. All right.
Narrowed it down to 2.
So let's continue our conversation now on just understanding changing expenses in retirement. And so, Doug, as we assess a client's retirement expenses, it's really helpful to break things into at least 2 main categories: the necessities in life and the discretionary spending in life. Mm-hmm. And this overall topic of trying to figure out your expenses is probably the biggest area where clients or people planning out their what retirement looks like for them, the projections. This is the part that they have the hardest time with.
They really do.
We all know what our income is because we like to know and track the money coming into us. It makes us feel good. We have a pretty good sense of what our assets are, what we've already accumulated, because we like to tune into our accounts and log in and see the money there. So that makes us feel good and warm. Of course, you want to protect that and know that it's still there. But where do we put blinders on? Where do we tend to, I don't want to look at that. That hurts to look at. The money that we're spending.
Exactly. And I think most people know how much is necessary, like taxes and that kind of thing.
They know what they're paying with their utilities and their cell phone bill.
But the discretionary, that's where the problem comes. They just don't keep track of how many times they go out to eat, or they buy a shirt or something like that.
And here's why that's going to have to change. That habit, you have to get into a different habit. When you're working, in all likelihood, you've got more income coming into you than what you're spending. So you're not necessarily working on a tight budget month in and month out. You're hopefully putting the amounts that you can into your 401k and your IRA, but whatever leftover money is out there, you're just spending it willy-nilly and whatnot. I'm a victim of this as much as anybody. Sure. I just got myself a nice sound studio at the house. I got myself a nice record player, some decent Polk speakers. I'm increasing the size of my vinyl collection and some other music little items in there. I'm being irresponsible to a little degree on how much I'm spending there or what I'm doing. But it would be painful for me to break out a spreadsheet and start looking at everything that I've bought for that little sound studio of mine there. The spending is going to be done in a few weeks anyway, so I'm telling myself it's not that important because I'm not going to keep spending money on this. It's going to be short-lived, and it will be. But if I was truly responsible, as irresponsible as I would encourage everybody else out there to be, including our clients, I would be tracking each and every dollar that I'm spending so that I can slap myself on the wrist and say, slow it down, you've spent enough here. And that's one project, but there's going to be another one at some point.
Right.
My wife's going to want the new garden boxes out in the backyard and whatnot. There's always something else. We need to track the discretionary spending. And we have to have a good sense. When you're sitting down with your financial planner, you've got to be able to have a good answer and a good say, this is how much we want to be able to spend in retirement. Here's how much we have to spend, but here's the additional amounts that we want to spend, whether that's on an RV or on a hot tub and the expenses that go along with something like that. Maybe you've got a pool at your HOA that you want to be a member of. All of these things you've got to track. And it's hard for people to do that. And so that's why this is one of the bigger things that people have to really change their habits on and be a little bit more responsible on, is tracking those discretionary spending. Doug, do you have anything like that? Don't make me be the guilty one here where I'm confessing and you're not. Chime in here, make me feel a little bit better that you've got something.
Well, I don't have any really expensive hobbies right now. It used to be golf, but because of my back issues, I haven't been able to play for over a year. But yeah, I get it. I do the same thing with stuff, Now that we're building a house in Louisville, I'm sure that's those discretionary discretionary expenses are going to go up too, So
Well, this is a hobby of yours that is not just purely investments, but you buy a lot of coins, a lot of vintage coins, and yes, they've got the value of the precious metal, so that part of it is an investment. But then you also are buying them because of the what do you call it, the numeric value, numismatic value there. So that's a hobby of yours that you spend some money on, and I'm sure that you tell yourself, I've already bought a couple this month or whatnot.
Yeah, don't need any more.
Don't need any more, but yeah.
If I do, I'll have to get a bigger safe.
and I'll tell you, Doug, I've been in your office at your house, and I've seen the number of sports memorabilia that's autographed in there. So you've got a few items there that you didn't need, but you wanted.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things here. Let's talk about a couple of other expenses that we've covered that contributes to cash flow problems in retirement. And that's longevity.
Yep, longevity. It's interesting because, we when we plan out a plan, we try to make sure that every client's plan takes them out to age 100 without running out of money. They always laugh at us and say, I'm not going to live to 100.
Yes.
Well, maybe not, but you could live to 90. And wouldn't you rather know you can make it to 90 versus running out of money at 75?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that's a very common thing that we get. If you are just tuning into us, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians Show with Doug Ray and Brice Payne, and we are continuing our conversation on understanding changing expenses in retirement. Now, I just want to give you our phone number out there. It's 336-391-3409. If you want to sit down with Doug, Garrett, and myself and go over your expenses, go over your income and your assets and the type of income that your assets should be able to generate for you in retirement, and make sure that you are on a solid path to retirement, that you're not overlooking something like some of these discretionary spending issues that a lot of people are plagued with, you can just give us a call, 336-391-3409. There is no cost. There is no obligation to sit down with us. It's just what we do. Our office is in Clemens. It's in the Broyhill Annex in Clemens on Clemens Road underneath the water tower. And I will throw out this as well. You can text the word wealth to 336-391-3409 to receive our free report, Managing Inflation in Retirement. And we're going to talk about inflation here next. That is one of the key aspects that you have to plan for in retirement. But I also want you to keep in mind that you can always tune into the video broadcast of this episode. If you want to not just listen to Doug and myself, but you actually want to see us in action here, go to our YouTube channel, The Wealth Guardians, and you can see all of our back episodes of the radio show. Additionally, we have episodes of what we call our Video Vault series, where we break down individual topics on all things pertaining to retirement planning that is not on the radio. So that's our little breakdown here of how you can watch us more, see us more, listen to us more, and get some additional reading material all around the topics that we're prone to talk about. Doug, let's talk about this next topic here. We talked about longevity. What about inflation?
Well, we all have experienced that the last couple of years, haven't we? So inflation is definitely going to be a factor there, whether they get inflation under control again, even at 2.5–3% per year, it adds up over a 10, 20-year retirement.
It absolutely does. Inflation, I would say, Doug, is for those engineers or somebody who has come to us where they've already calculated out how they think retirement's going to look for them and what the size of their nest egg is going to be year by year. Inflation is one that they often overlook. Oh, I didn't plan for inflation. And inflation is huge. We can adjust that number a little bit up or down, and that plays a huge aspect in what the size of somebody's nest egg is going to be. Yes, inflation is high right now, and we have the software that knows what the 100-year average of inflation is. We tend to increase it a little bit from that just to make sure that we're erring on the conservative side. But longevity and inflation are two things that you absolutely have to plan for in your retirement plan, and those impact your expenses significantly. Let's get in one more here, Doug, before we got to sign off for the weekend. Investment returns.
Well, investment returns are definitely crucial because you have to have some kind of return on your portfolio that offsets that inflation we're talking about. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen is people who come to us from another advisor, and that advisor has planned out their retirement at a rate of 7, 8, 9%, which I think is absolutely unrealistic. We try to be more conservative with that, and we use an overall reasonable rate of return of 5%. But you definitely have to be cautious of your investments. You cannot make a mistake in retirement, like losing half your money, like 2008. You'll not recover from that.
Yeah, when you're taking distributions out, that makes it almost impossible for your portfolio to recover. Remember, if your portfolio drops 50%, how much do you have to gain to get it back to even? 100%. That's going to be almost impossible to do if you're taking distributions from your account. All right. Well, folks, we want to thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have this week. We hope that the rest of your weekend is going to be everything that you want it to be. This is Brice Payne. I'm here with Doug Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And remember, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5, WPTI.